First and foremost, we're going to start with the positive news in this video. Hughie Fury versus Joseph Parker confirmed. 6th of May at the Vector Arena in Auckland, Hughie Fury will be taking on Joseph Parker for the WBO World Heavyweight title. Really good fight, really looking forward to this one, and great to have a formal date, great to have a formal location set in stone. This video, and I understand that the Furies will be going out to New Zealand a month in advance, subject to visas, in order to begin their training over there. In order to finalise their training over there, and in order to ensure there are no jet lag problems by the time the fight ensues. I watched an interview. I've seen actually several interviews with Peter Fury, but I watched one this morning on the 4C Sports Media channel. So up to them. And Peter Fury, Hughie's father and trainer, confirmed that they would be going out to New Zealand a month in advance. He has a criminal record, so there is some question mark as to whether or not he will actually get a visa to go out there with Hughie. And I think that's a key question in the lead up to this fight, because if he doesn't get a visa, the question of whether they'll still want to go out there a month in advance and have Hughie a month without his trainer is one question in my mind, and that will potentially also be a big loss to the Furies in terms of Peter Fury's corner work. But one of the other things that was raised in this interview, and it's something I've heard several times, is that the intention is for Hughie Fury to weigh in at a career heaviest for this fight. And that's something that I wanted to discuss in this video. So I'm going to start by disclaiming this by saying, look, Hughie Fury's 22 years old, so he's someone who's naturally going to be getting heavier anyway, because as you guys know, you get heavier and you get a bit thicker set as you get older. And when you're so tall and so rangy as Hughie is, at the age of 22, you're probably still growing into yourself. So there's no surprise that he's going to be heavier than when he was fighting at 21, 19. He's also had various health problems outside of the ring, Hughie. As we know, he's had various allergies, etc. So there's another reason why, if he's got that under his belt, potentially his weight will be higher. But he's also not the kind of character like Tyson Fury, who necessarily blows up to 25 stone or 300 pounds, however you want to phrase it, between fights. So he's not someone who's necessarily gone into fights previously looking fat and looking overweight. But it seems that it's a definite tactic and a definite strategy from the Furies for Hughie Fury to weigh in as heavy as possible. Not as heavy as possible, but certainly at a career heaviest for this fight. That seems to be something they've made their mind up, and something that they're looking to implement ahead for this fight. So, as I say, that probably means less than a heavyweight who's 30 years old weighing in at a career heaviest, because Hughie Fury's the kind of guy who's naturally going to be getting heavier anyway as he's getting older, as he's maturing, and as he's beating these illnesses. But I do have some concerns about this as a deliberate tactic. It's not like Peter Fury's saying, we'll get in good shape and who knows, we may be our career heaviest. It looks like he's coming out and making a definite play to actually be weighing in at a career heaviest for this fight. And from my side, I'm just not entirely sure as to what benefit that is going to bring to the equation, because Hughie Fury isn't the biggest puncher in the world. He isn't naturally the most powerful heavyweight in the sport. If he weighs in with an extra half a stone on him, having seen all of his fights, I don't necessarily think that that's going to make a massive difference in that department. The way I look at Hughie is more as a fighter who is a technician. He's got an immense amateur pedigree. He's a great mover. He's a great jabber. He's someone who I actually think could benefit from being light on his feet. When I look at him and Joseph Parker's got several advantages in this fight. Joseph Parker, for me, is the more natural athlete. Joseph Parker, for me, is the more heavy-handed individual. Joseph Parker has got the higher hand speed, or the swifter hand speed, should I say. So if I'm looking at where Hughie's advantages kick in, and if I'm having to think about where I think Hughie can possibly win this fight, I think it's by frustrating Joseph Parker. I think it's by being out of range when Joseph Parker's trying to connect. I think it's by beating Joseph Parker to the jab. Maybe taking advantage of the fact that Joseph Parker doesn't always commit to his jab as much as he should, and beating him in that department. And I think in order to fight that kind of fight against a young athletic heavyweight like Joseph Parker, Hughie's going to have to rely on angles, Hughie's going to have to rely on stamina, and he's going to have to rely on movement. I detect in this fight that Hughie is probably going to be taking on the role of the back foot fighter, looking to use the width of the ring, looking to get his jab off, looking to use range, whereas I think Joseph Parker is probably going to be the natural aggressor in this fight. I suspect he's going to be the one on the front foot. Now, clearly, if Hughie's punching with a lot more weight behind it, because he's got extra pounds behind him, that in itself is not going to be a disadvantage. But my concern is that the kind of fight Hughie's going to need to fight is going to require him to be very, very mobile, and him to be, operating on the back foot with a high work rate. And I think that's very hard to do if you're carrying extra weight. And with Hughie Fury having operated in that sort of manner for the entirety of his career, I actually think what Hughie Fury needs to do is approach this fight like he's approached many of his other fights. And I'm not 100% sure why Peter Fury necessarily feels the need to change the existing formula by adding more weight to the equation. Just look at Tyson Fury, for example. Look at the way Tyson Fury's weights have changed over the years. I think when I saw him fight Joey Abel, he was 20 stone, he was 280 pounds, that sort of region. And, Tyson's obviously a naturally very, very big guy. But if he'd shown up to fight Vladimir Klitschko in the shape that he turned up to fight Joey Abel, I believe he'd have lost that fight. Because the kind of fight he needed to fight that night relied on foot speed, relied on a gas tank, relied on an engine, and relied on, being nimble on the back foot. And funnily enough, I actually don't think the fight is that different from Hughie Fury's perspective here. I think it's all about winning the battle of jabs, frustrating Parker with range, making angles awkward from, with his footwork and his movement. And I don't necessarily see that coming in 10 or 20 pounds heavier than he's done so far in his career to date is going to be beneficial. Now, if Hughie is just naturally getting a bit more muscular as he goes into his 20s, if he's cleared up some health conditions that have been affecting his diet, and as such he's becoming a bit more heavily set naturally, that in itself isn't a problem. And I don't believe this is the heavyweight division here we're talking about. We're not talking about flyweight. So I don't believe if Hughie weighs in 1 or 2 pounds heavier than normal, it's got the potential to really have a huge impact on the fight. However, the comments I've heard so far lead me to think it's a deliberate ploy to try and add weight to the equation. Now, I don't know if that's because they think Parker's a big heavyweight, or because Parker's a very, very big power puncher, and they're trying to think that Hughie may be a bit more resilient with that extra weight on him. Perhaps that's the logic. Perhaps that's the way they're approaching this. But for me, I think if I were to see Hughie weigh in, 10 pounds heavier than we've seen him fight before, it would be a very, very major concern for me. Because the fight Hughie Fury needs to fight is not one where you're reliant on strength and power. Hughie Fury needs to play to his advantages, and from my sense, his advantages are skill, range, and technique. And none of those things are going to be aided by putting on an extra 10 pounds. In fact, some of those things could be negatively affected, I think, given the way I see this fight going. So that's just my thoughts. First and foremost, great news that the fight has been confirmed. One that every boxing fan should be adding to their calendar, and it's can't miss. Over here in the UK, I suspect the fight will be on 10 a.m. in the morning, 11 a.m. in the morning, and that would be a great start to the weekend to see that fight. Definitely, it's going to be a really, really entertaining matchup, and it's a matchup where there's strong opinion on both sides. The Joseph Parker fans are very, very confident that this is a routine defence for Joseph Parker ahead of bigger and better things, maybe unification bouts, and the Hughie Fury fans think that Joseph Parker is tailor-made for their man. So it's a great, great fight. I'm looking forward to it. The weight dynamic, for me, it adds a little bit of a concern from a Hughie Fury perspective, as does the potential visa situation. Very interested to see how that plays out and see if Peter Fury is allowed to enter the country as a father and trainer of Hughie Fury. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section, guys. Am I the only one thinking this about the extra weight for Hughie? Leave your opinions in the section below. If you've enjoyed the video, take the time to hit the thumbs up button, please. That adds visibility to the channel. And if you haven't checked out my stuff before, do subscribe so you get notifications of when I do new videos. Cheers for watching.